Okay, beloved. Good morning still. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we appreciate y'all coming to our AWANA Grand Prix this year. Hope everybody got some good nuggets in them in your miniature chicken coops there. But this morning, I generally do a little sermonette about racing. But this one's going to be just a little bit different. It's going to be, well, you'll see. I call this one the also rans. See if anybody can tell me what all these people have in common. I wrote this down this morning. I'm going to read you a list of names. So you listen to these names and see what do they all have in common. William Jennings Bryan, Charles Evan Hughes, Al Smith, Wendell Wilkie, Thomas Dewey, Adlai Stevenson, Barry Goldwater, George Wallace, Walter Mondale, Michael Dukakis, Bob Dole, Al Gore, John Kerry, John McCain, Mitt Romney, and Hillary Clinton. What do they all have in common? Max?
Were they president? No, were they...
Not presidents.
People that did that? Or?
It's Brittany?
Republicans?
Not Republican, no. Miss Robin?
They ran for president.
They ran for president. You were close. Y'all are close. All of those people, if they could have had a few different electoral votes, they could have been the president of these states united. So not everyone who runs in a race wins a trophy. We don't give out participation awards because according to the Bible, 1 Corinthians 9:24 says, "Know ye not that they which run in a race run all, but one receiveth the prize." So run that you may obtain. Why get in a race if you're not going to win? Why try to enter something if you're not going to do your best to try to win the trophy, try to win the award? So not all of us win. Sometimes we lose. And that's one thing that in America, in our churches, we even as Christians, we need to understand that sometimes in life you do lose. But a lot of times people today, they try to say, well, we don't want anybody to go away feeling bad or feeling sad. We don't want anybody to feel sad or bad intentionally, but that's part of life. Just like people when they date. Sometimes they may look back and say, well, that was the one that got away. Well, you don't need to think that because you've already married or, you have what is it they call it nowadays, significant other. So anyhow. But there's things that happen. You might have got looked over for that job promotion. It might have been something that you could have done better, but you didn't. And so they said, well, you would have had it, but you didn't do this good, and you were late, like 5 weeks in a row. I don't know. Sometimes we lose. So what does that do? What does losing do for us? It should help us learn from our mistakes, right? But if we make everybody a winner, that actually goes against the Bible because in the spiritual realm there are 5 crowns which we can obtain, but the Bible never says that we're all going to get 5 crowns. It never even says that we're going to get a crown. One of those things we put on our head, like this here. It never says we're all going to get one of these. But it says they're there. That we could possibly obtain one or some of them. But that's not what I'm talking about today. I want to look at a different race. That while we're doing our race, while we're doing this AWANA race, while we're going about our lives in our jobs, trying to do our best, while we're trying to live our lives for Jesus and do our best for Him, there's another race that is going on that a lot of people don't even realize is happening. And so to get this, I go to Zechariah in the Old Testament, chapter 4, verse 10. The Bible says this, "For who hath despised the day of small things? For they shall rejoice and shall see the plummet in the hand of Zerubbabel with those 7. They are the eyes of the Lord, which run to and fro through the whole earth." So we would be amiss if we did not look around and understand that in the days when we mess up and when we fail, there's another race being won. In the days when we run and we win, and we get the trophy, we get the prize, we do our best, and we get first or second or third place, there's another race in the background, somewhere around this world. So while we run our Christian race here on earth, the Bible here tells us in Zechariah 4:10 that they are the eyes of the Lord which run to and fro through the whole earth. And that is the race I want you to think about today. That while you're going about your life, while you're thinking about the thoughts you think, the Lord's eyes see your thoughts. Now, folks, I don't know about y'all, but to me, that scares the daylights out of me at times. To think about God, who is holy, righteous, and pure, looks in my heart and sees what I am thinking. I dare say that if we could all somehow see each other's thoughts at all times, we would be embarrassed, we would be ashamed, we would try to go run and hide somewhere, and we probably wouldn't have any friends, most likely. Because there are times that we wear a mask. There are times when you see someone you probably really don't want to see. And suddenly you bump into them at Walmart, or you bump into them out town somewhere. Hi, how are you? And blah, 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 blah. And you're thinking, I really want to go, I really want to get away from this person. Now, you adults, I'm sure you've been there, done that. Maybe several times a week, I don't know. But sometimes it happens. But if we could see one another's thoughts, the truth would be known, wouldn't it? There are things that we think, that we pray, that no one will ever see. But God sees that. The place in our heart and our mind that we think is so private, that we think is so secure, that no one else can see or know, God sees and He knows. Because the Bible says His eyes go, they run to and fro throughout the whole world, throughout the whole earth. Hello. Sorry about that. See, I tell you to put your phones on mute when we're in church. So, God's watching. He's looking. He's looking inside of your thoughts right now. So, you may be sitting in church saying, man, I wish she'd shut up so we could go home. Boy, that would amaze me if I saw that. And, of course, I might be saying, well, look at that person over there. They're sleeping. Or look at that person over there. They ain't even paying attention. You might be offended at that. So, but the thing is, God sees all of those thoughts. Every one of them. He sees the good thoughts. He sees the bad thoughts. He sees the thought that we should never think. He sees the thoughts that run across our mind. He sees it all. Now, if that is the case, and God is a just and holy God, and He sees the thoughts that we're thinking that aren't right, that aren't godly, that aren't pure, that aren't holy, how does that make us feel when God sees that? Even as a Christian, even as a child of God, how does that make me feel? Well, it tells me one thing, that the Bible also tells me that I should bring every thought, every imagination captive unto Him. And that's hard to do, God. It's harder to do than we think. But remember, the Bible also tells me that I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me. Number two, not only does His eyes see your thoughts, but His eyes also see your soul. Any one of us can have our name on the church roster and say we're a member of the church. Any one of us can say to another person, I am a believer in Jesus Christ. But God sees your soul. He knows. He knows if you're legit or not. He knows if you're the real deal or not. All of us have been an actor or an actress at some point in our life. I remember on days when I really didn't want to go to school. I would have to go through the whole ordeal of going to school. And then while I was at school, suddenly I would not feel good on my belly. And I would tell my teachers, I don't feel good. I want to go home. And so I'd call my mama or my daddy, and they'd come pick me up. And suddenly that illness would vanish. It would go away. I remember one year, really didn't want to go to school because it was raining outside. I wanted to stay home and play. So I ran inside of the medicine cabinet and got the thermometer and run it under the hot water. And so I said, I'll take it to you. Mama said, oh, my goodness, you got 100 degrees. You got to stay home. You got a fever. Woo. Well, she was ready to send me to the doctor, but the fever never did come back. She said, boy, you played hooky. I said, yes, ma'am, I did. So she sent me home to school. So la-di-da on those plans. But you see, we can all be an actor. We can all put on a show. We can all go through a routine and try to fake something. But the thing is, you cannot fake Christianity with God. You can make it fake with us. But it really matters is how do you stand before God? Because God sees your soul. He knows what you are. He knows if you're born again. He knows if you're one of His. So as we go throughout our life, as we go to church on Sunday and Wednesday, and we go throughout our daily lives in our goings on, God knows if we're a child of His or not. So I encourage you, make sure that if you're not certain of where you're going to go when you die, you're not certain of where you stand with God, don't gamble with your eternity. Make sure that you are saved, that you know Jesus as your Savior. Number 3, also, His eyes run to and fro in this race because not only does He see our thoughts, not only does He see our soul, but He also sees our doings. In those times when you think you're by yourself and you're going to do something that Mom or Daddy said you shouldn't do, or maybe you're going to do something that you know that God would not approve of, God sees exactly what you're doing. You are not alone. He is with you. He is watching what you're doing. It's just like that thief that broke inside that house. He was trying to be also gentle, also quiet. There were people at home sleeping in the bed. He didn't want to wake them up because he wanted to grab whatever it was he could and get out of there. And suddenly, in the dark corner of a room, there came a voice. Jesus is watching you. He was scared to death. He looked around and said, oh dear, what is that? So he finally shook it off and he kept on moving around again. And that voice came out again. Jesus is watching you. He got the flashlight out and looked around. And he saw a parrot in a cage. He said, who are you? He said, I'm Moses. Moses? What kind of person names a parrot Moses? Ah, the same kind of person names a Rottweiler Jesus. And he looked behind him and there was the Rottweiler. And that was Jesus. So he met Jesus that night. Scared out of his daylights, he was. But yes, Jesus is really our Jesus, our Savior, is really watching you. And He's much worse than a mean Rottweiler because He is the supreme judge. But He's watching you. He's watching you. Like that time I was in the grocery store and I swiped a piece of candy because I really wanted that piece of candy. And Mama wouldn't get it for me. But I went inside the car and started opening up. She said, boy, what's that noise? Oops. She saw me red-handed. Where'd you get that from? I didn't pay for that. We're going back inside the store. I had to go before the manager. And he said, well, I would call the cops, but you brought it back in. So I think I was 6 years old. That warned me, don't do that. Do not steal. But my parents had already taught me the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not steal. So, when you think you're going to get away with something, you knock over that vase and it shatters and you sweep it under the rug and you hope Mom and Daddy won't find out. They'll know, but more importantly, God knows. So don't lie about it. Don't steal. Don't do something you're not supposed to do. If you know God would frown on what you're about to do, don't do it. And if your parents tell you don't do this, obey, children, obey your parents. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 1. Let you. So God sees what you're doing. His eyes run to and fro. And finally, number 4. His eyes not only see your thoughts, your soul, your doing, but here's another thing. His eyes also see your future. Now think about that. How many times have we wondered, in 10 years, in 20 years, what am I going to be doing? Where am I going to be? For some of you, well, you might be in high school. You might be out of high school. You might be graduating. You might have a family by that time. You might be inside of a good job working and rearing and raising a family. For some of them, like Isabella, well, she'll be around 10 years old. She'll be around 20 years old. I know, Gloria, don't faint. But think about that. In 10 years, where will we all be? God knows. He knows if some of us will be in heaven already. He knows if some of us will still be around here. He knows what the future of this church holds. But here's the thing. You don't know what's going to happen 2 hours from now. Just like me. I don't know, and in a few moments I could get a phone call from my dad telling me that my grandmother has passed. I don't know. All I know is she's at hospice right now. And it's a day-by-day thing. Moment-by-moment thing. I don't know. I didn't know that Saturday in 2008 would be my last day with my mother. I did not know that. I did not know that week. That was my last week with Mama. I didn't know. But God did. He saw the future. He knows the future. You don't know when we could be in a wreck. You don't know what could happen to you. But God does. So let's not fear the future, but rather trust He who knows the future and can guide us through it. And that's why today, if you don't know Jesus, if you don't know the Lord, the one who does know the future, what does that say about you going into that unknown future without the one who can get you through that future? I'm glad I know Jesus because He's the only way I got through what I've gotten through in my life. All the things that I've had to endure and go through, I couldn't have done it all on my own. I could only get through it because He was with me. So He saw the race that I've been running. And He saw the potholes and the obstacles and the roadblocks that I could potentially get into. And He's gotten me through that. Because He knows the future and He's held my hand. And sometimes, like Makisha has Isabella holding her, sometimes the Lord has held me through these things that I've went through. Just like He's held you. And so today, as we think about this exciting race fixing to come up, some of you will be in the winner's circle. Some of you will be in the also-ran circle. But however you land, whether you win or whether you lose, remember, it's all part of the race. Because it's like life. Some days you win, some days you lose. But in the end, you know as well as I that if you know Jesus, ultimately, you are a winner. And besides that, if you happen to not win today, guess what? There's another AWANA Grand Prix coming up soon, so you can do better. Mm-hmm. So always remember, do your best for Jesus. Do your best for Mom and Dad. And just do your best in life, and you will go far. So, this morning, if you don't know Jesus, I encourage you to search your soul out and come. If you do know Him, then thank Him for who He is and what He means for you. And think about how you can serve Him better as you run this race down here below. So remember, think about what you say and do. Think about where you're going and what your motives are and your thoughts are in your heart. Because God knows everything about you, even more than you yourself know. All right, with that said, let's bow our heads and we'll close out.